sales is a people's business, and having the ability to form and cultivate long-lasting and authentic relationships is the heartbeat to hope when it comes to having any sustainable success within the industry. According to the National Sales Executives Association, 3% of all sales are made on the second contact, elevating the importance of the follow-up. And 5% of all sales are made on the third contact. And rounding out these noteworthy statistics include 10% of all sales are made on the fourth contact, and a total of 80% of all sales are attributable to your relentless and unrelenting persistence on closing the deal. No one knows this better than Darleen Priday. She has spent more than a quarter of a century helping businesses to grow through sales coaching and virtual assist services for entrepreneurs and small businesses. She currently serves as the CEO and founder of DP Consults, where they believe that human connection is the most critical part to the buying and selling process. They really want to teach you how to make more meaningful and authentic connections with buyers. Priday joined me this week to tell me how we make the sales process an approachable conversation and how we can utilize inclusive business environments to create a space where everyone feels valued, heard, and respected all throughout the sales and recruiting process. I'm Kevin McShann. Let's have this conversation. I'll take a moment to welcome you to the program, and I'm super excited to talk to you this afternoon all about the sales process. Great to see you, and happy Wednesday to you.
Happy Wednesday.
Absolutely. So, Darleen, I wanted to start our conversation by asking you about empathetic sales and the whole process behind that, and how our ability to be empathetic can help us through the sales process.
Yeah, so I always try to operate by putting myself in that other person's shoes. What's in the best interest of them? What are they really looking for? How can I serve them? Am I the right solution? And over the years, I never put a name on it till fairly recently, when I started looking into how I connect with my clients. But really, when it boiled down, was being empathetic and really looking out for the best interest of that person.
Yeah, absolutely. And Darleen, tell me, how much of sales is a people business? Because it really is the lifeblood of all sales, isn't it?
It really is. Like, everybody sells, even if you're not in a sales position. You start from a kid, right? Telling your parents if you want to do something and like advocating for yourself or whatever it may be. So sales is part of everything that we do. What I find is that sometimes as a business owner, especially an entrepreneur, when you have to do it all, you have to wear all the different hats. When it comes to sales, they feel like they get nervous, they lose confidence, they feel like it's inauthentic. There's a lot of sales coaching out there that takes a harder approach, makes people, get their pain points, get their, fear, make sure you're closing a deal before you hang up the call. So they're hearing all these things, and then it's inauthentic to who they are. And then they feel bad about the sales process.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's dive into how do you think people can make authentic human connections that make the sales process a little less pushy and a more sort of human experience? What do you think the key is there?
So I think by active listening, not going in, so many people have almost like a sales script, and they're just there to tell that client or that potential client what they have to offer and different things like that, but they're not actually listening to what that person needs. So really active listening and hearing what the person is looking for and knowing how you can best serve them, because if you are not the right solution, not bringing that client in is a better option than not having someone who is happy with your services.
Time is money in business, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
Absolutely. And Darleen, tell me about building confidence in business. And how do you think it's interconnected to building strategy as well? So how do you think those two things are interconnected?
So confidence, I tell my clients too that I coach, you're not going to always have 100% confidence in a sales call, or you're not going to hit it out of the park every time. But if you have a little bit of a mind shift and look at the sales call as conveying your value and sharing how you can help, takes a lot of the pressure off of it. But the sales strategy there's a lot of different strategies. So doing your homework before you get on that call to know who you're speaking to, knowing who you can serve well and your value adds is important. And also follow up. I've heard a statistic that 70% of people do not follow up on sales calls. And especially for small businesses, I really didn't believe that number. But the more clients that I talk to, the more I realize that that's true. A no doesn't actually mean no sometimes. Sometimes it's not right now. Sometimes it's not, it might be in the future. It might be a good referral partner. They may know somebody who needs your services, even if they don't. So really having that follow-up sequence and cadence that is appropriate to that call is important as well.
Yeah, and Darleen, I'm going to take a moment to just share a little bit about myself. So I was born with what's called spastic quadriplegia cerebral palsy. It simply means that I don't have enough oxygen in my lungs to walk normally, and I've used my story and sort of my experience in life to help businesses build an inclusive culture and really infuse folks with disabilities into the workforce. So I wonder, how an inclusive environment in business where all voices are welcomed and valued can assist in the sales process.
So I think, well, first of all, I commend you. That's amazing that, you're a great example that you don't have to have disabilities limit you, right? Like you can, maybe you're not what people think of as somebody who's having a podcast, yet you did it and you have a successful one. So kudos to you for doing that. And I think that could be for sales as well. is when you're connecting with that person and you're sharing what you can do, and that there's no boundaries, that anybody can do that, right? So there's always workarounds, just depending on what people's issues may be. But if there's a way to have that sales call where you're looking in the person's face on Zoom is a great option, because you're making that personal connection with them. And despite whatever issues anybody has, you can really make that personal connection and convey those values back and forth.
Yeah, absolutely. And Darleen, I know that you've been doing this for over a quarter of a century now, and what are your thoughts on how the sales process has evolved and really allowed businesses to take a more diverse approach to doing business? So how do you think we've evolved from the sales process to make it more inclusive from a business and personal standpoint as well?
Yeah, so I think, like, first of all, it's evolved tremendously. I mean, and it's probably more like 30 years than 25 years, but I sound really old now, right? So, but so technology has enabled such inclusivity with whether if somebody has issues hearing or seeing or whatever. So those are like just the type of ways that technology has helped, but also even just physical location. I can sell to anybody in the world because of technology. Or if somebody could not leave their house, or don't have accommodations to get around or have transportation or whatever, it's limitless, right? We can be in each other's homes just virtually. So it's really wonderful. I've seen websites now that, they have to have ADA compliance and be accessible for many different disabilities. I think just the empathy where people are more aware of not discounting people just because they may not look or sound or feel like you, that they still have a voice and they still have a value and a contribution that is so unique that it is actually a gift.
Yeah, absolutely. And darling, sales isn't a process for everyone, but I truly believe if you work hard enough and make it a priority, and you follow simple steps to achieving results in a sales process, that anything in life is achievable if you work hard enough to achieve it. So tell me, from a sales perspective, what are the 3 easy things anyone can follow to sort of become not less of an expert, but to make the sales process a little bit more palatable if you're not used to it?
Yeah. So, again, like I could definitely give you steps, but making it authentic to you. First and foremost, know your client, know who you're going to serve best. I think a lot of people make the mistake by thinking that they can serve everybody, and that's really not the case. Mm-hmm. Knowing who you can serve well, knowing your value and the value that you bring, your value proposition is important too. And then, as I mentioned, follow up. So if you're having, if you're sharing what you can do, targeting the right people, and then following up, I think that is going to really start building your sales funnel and bringing in the right clients for you and making that process easy. Because while each one of my sales calls is unique, I definitely have sales processes just to make sure that nothing is slipping through the cracks and I'm connecting. I may speak to you today and you may want, you don't have the budget right now, but in 6 months, tag me. I need to have that information somewhere, because a lot happens in 6 months or 3 months to be able to follow up appropriately.
Yeah, the follow-up is critical, isn't it?
It is probably the most important piece that people miss within the sales process is the follow-up.
Yeah, it's vital. And tell me, Darleen, I'm curious to also ask you about eliminating fear in the sales process. How do you think people can make it sort of a less daunting task? Especially, I know this happens for me from time to time. When we get to the asking for money part of a sales call, once we get to that step, how do we eliminate the fear?
So that is a great point. What I tell my clients, excuse me, I told you I'm in Florida, and you know how this weather is. It rains, it's sunny, it rains again, and the barometric pressure is going up and down, and I'm losing my voice. So
I gotcha. Just wait 5 minutes in Florida, and the weather changes, right?
1,000%, 1,000%. So what I would say with the fear piece of it is, if you really know the value of what you're offering, know your product, service, whatever it may be, even if it's not your own, really believe in it. Could I sell ice to Eskimos? Absolutely. Do I want to sleep at night? Yes. So really what helps and inspires me is when I know I can really help someone, that makes me more convincing, because I know I can help them and I'm conveying that passion to them. When it comes to price, what I tell my clients too is it's not black and white. Again, you're sharing your value, you're sharing your prices, you're sharing your offerings. It's not going to be for everybody, and that's okay. Overcoming objections, typically price is a big objection, right? But it's typically a go-to for people when they don't want to kind of engage, and they'll just be like, I don't have the budget for it or whatever. Digging deeper, right? Seeing, if you did have the budget, would this be something you're interested in? And just knowing and kind of getting that relationship built. And then at the end, not looking at it as, if I didn't get the sale, that was a failure. Did you gain trust? Did you convey your value? And that is the win, is gaining that person's trust versus if they use your service or not.
Yeah, absolutely. And Darleen, as a motivational speaker and going through the process myself, I think that the discovery call and really discovering how you can add value to an organization or a business is a real centerpiece or a heartbeat to the sales process. Would you agree with that?
Oh, yes, that is such a critical part of the sales process, is the discovery call. Really, again, knowing if it is the right fit, hearing from your clients, active listening, making sure they're in alignment with your core vision and values and all of those different things, and what you have to offer is in alignment with them. I always say undersell, over deliver, right? You don't want to make all these crazy promises and have unhappy clients. You want to make sure that you are knocking it out of the park every time, and that they can really know what to expect from that journey. And if they're not the right fit for you, or you're not the right fit for them, again, at least you're building trust because you're being honest with them by saying, you know what, from what I've heard, I'm not the best source for you, but let me make some introductions for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And Darleen, I know for you and for myself, closing a sales call is a really exhilarating experience and a process. So tell me about the best part about closing a sale and why you think it's such an exhilarating process.
Sales, like I said, sales is hard. It's hard, and you get a lot of rejection, and it could be really difficult, but it is exhilarating when you know you can really serve that client well, and that you're going to move the needle for them, and they're going to, just be over the moon with your services. I find that so rewarding. I also love just me. I love a little bit of a challenge where somebody's like doubting and I can convince them and then show up and really be able to prove that, I like being right. I'm not like, I like saying, I told you so. Um, so I always tell my clients the best thing is when I can come back and say, I told you so. We outperformed whatever your expectations were. That is really exciting to me too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just quickly wanted to go back to something you said earlier about the importance of knowing your value, and as the person trying to sell a service or provide a service, it's really important to not undersell yourself as the individual trying to convince someone, isn't it?
It is important. You don't want to become arrogant, right? Nobody likes arrogance, but people want to be confident in understanding how you can serve them and what value you bring. So it is a fine line. You want to make sure you're conveying it in a way that you're not being arrogant, and you're being more humble about you offer a good service, a good product, whatever it may be, and why that is a good fit for them, as opposed to just saying my way is the only way. If I hear that from anyone, even if I want your service, I won't do it because it's just too aggressive.
Mm-hmm. And my final question for you today is a two-parter. I'm curious because, one of the things that has made me successful as a person in overcoming adversity and obstacles and all that good stuff is always being, relentlessly positive and looking to sort of turn out or cultivate as much joy out of life as I can. So I'm curious for you, what is your heartbeat of hope, and what gives you the most satisfaction in life as a whole? I'm fascinated.
Well, I appreciate your journey with adversity, and I think we all have different levels of it at different times in our life. And 2 years ago, my husband, out of the blue, became very ill and suffered multiple strokes and different things like that. And it was absolutely devastating. But that being said, like, we still had joy. And we could laugh about things probably nobody would ever laugh at, but we were a team and we were going to get through it one step at a time. And you have to look at that good, right? And you have to look at the provision that is given to you and grab it, because it doesn't matter. It's a mindset. There's people and I always knew that there's other people going through so much worse. So you have to be grateful for the good, hang on to that, and surround yourself with people who are going to be cheerleaders for you, and you can inspire and cheer them on well too.
Yeah, absolutely. And Darleen, I'm curious to end on this note. I'm wondering, when you look at your life and legacy from a personal and professional perspective, how do you want that to be defined?
I would love professionally to just change the landscape of what people think of with sales, and really bring across that there is a different way to do it, and you don't have to be sleazy, and you don't have to be pressured, and you could still be really successful to care about somebody else. And personally, I would love to leave the legacy that, regardless, that I was there to help people and encourage them along the way, and I love being a cheerleader, and I love seeing people succeed, both professionally and personally.
Yeah, absolutely. And finally, tell me, if people want to get connected with you, what's the best way they can do that?
Yeah, so they can visit my website. It's dp-consults.com. I'm also on LinkedIn. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. My first name is Darleen. Last name is Priday, Priday. Send me a request and I'd love to connect. And like I said, I have a pretty incredible network. So if I'm not the right person for your needs, I can get you into the right hands.
Well, life is a constant game of networking, isn't it?
It really is. And it's so there's people doing amazing things out there, and I'm so inspired by others too. So networking not only helps me professionally, but also inspires me to do better.
Absolutely. Well, we've got to get connected on LinkedIn so that we can stay connected. But for now, Darleen, I want to thank you for joining me to talk in depthly about the sales process and everything that goes along with that. Your work in the space and time on my behalf is most appreciated. I want to wish you a great Florida Tuesday, and thank you for joining me today. It's Wednesday. All correct.
I was you scared me, Kevin. I thought I was messed up. I was like, wait, I missed a day. Wait.
Well, let's do that again. I want to wish you a great Florida Wednesday, and thank you for joining me today. It's most appreciated.
It has been really fun and a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.